Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys. All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project. I'm your co-host, Bob, and this is the other co-host, Lalo. Hey, man, I got it right that time.
Pretty good,
Fuck,
pretty good.
yeah, fucking A. How you doing, man?
Good. I took the day off today, um, so can't complain.
Yeah, I I had taken tomorrow off. So, but I got a lot of shit to do. So it's not really a day off as much as it is like I guess one of those working middle class catch up because you work too much to have a life kind of days, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, it sucks. It's not really that. It's my fault. You know, I'm working on that master's degree and that's taking up a hell of a lot of time right now. Takes up all every weekend. So
but it's good.
you're
It'll be worth it in the end.
yeah, I know it'll be worth like I'll double my wages at the end of 18 months, but still by doubling my wages, I'm still going in another $70,000 in debt. So if
It
you're
probably comes out to
listening,
be more than that with all the interest charges.
oh yeah, it'll, my total debt at the end of this is going to be about $103,000. And
Uh,
yeah, I know, man, I know, but what's a boy to do? You know,
yeah,
you can continue to toil and have $30,000 worth of debt and make 30, 40, $50,000, or you can go in full and make more 70, 75,000. But it's just and if President Biden, listen, fucker, if you're listening to this, which I know you're not, but somebody tap the old motherfucker on the shoulder and remind him that he said he was going to cancel some student debt here and he still hasn't done it.
I mean he's canceled some. I think I forgot the category of people that qualified. But I think it was like disabled people with like student debt. But it was
Okay.
like 5 billion worth or something like that. But he canceled some. But I mean, you're right. It's not like the 50 off the top that he
Yeah.
promised.
I don't know how much he promised, but he did allude to it, a lot while he was up there making those speeches. And, this is wrong. All this student debt is wrong. And we're going to get rid of $1 trillion and whatever. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I
I'm just going
mean,
to die in debt. And that's fine.
welcome to America.
I'm going to die in debt with a fucking to-do list in my breast pocket, you know? Oh,
That's
well.
one of the things that's like that I'm like not looking forward to when it comes to like finishing up school. Because I mean, my whole time in BC, like it's super cheap, so I
Yeah.
never had to take out any loans. But now going to like a university, and my goal is to get my master's as well. So I know
Oh,
there's gonna be some trade off there.
yeah. Well, at least you're getting, some of it out of the way. So you only end up with like 70 or 80,000 instead of 100.
Yeah. And then I know people that have like their masters from like CSUB, and then they'll have one from like a UC, like
Yeah.
UCLA or something. And it's like it's the same thing, but one's worth like double or triple the amount.
Yeah.
And then you end up working like in the same place. So it's like I'd rather get it as cheap as possible.
Making the same amount of money. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I know. It's funny how I was I talked to my kid this morning and she she's been really angry lately and I know a lot, that teenage shit that goes, that we all went through. And I was talking to her about how she's angry all the time, and I said, well, you know, what I'd like you to think about is over the next few days is why you're angry, and it doesn't have anything to do with, you know, the hair clip won't go in right or your hair's not right, you can't find your the pants you want. I said you're it's like you're waiting to be angry all the time. It's like you're preparing to be angry. I thought about what I talked to her about today, and she's a smart kid. She's kind of philosophical, so she's been quiet all day, been thinking about what
Yeah.
I said, and that's really cool. But the more I thought about it, I was at work. You look in traffic, you look online, you look on television. Everybody is so fucking angry right now. It's like we're punching flight attendants and, you know, just this crazy amount of violence, and everybody's pissed off, and it's like they're blowing up at everything. The minor things are turned into major racist fucking events all of a sudden because somebody cut somebody off in traffic, and all of a sudden it's just they're beating on the windows and shooting each other. What the fuck is going on, man?
I wish I knew. I think. I mean, I think a lot of like the feelings that or like the emotions that we're seeing have always been there. I think it's just becoming more like shown, you know. I don't know, man. I feel like this whole like quarantine like past like year and a half, 2 years, it like flipped something in a lot of people and it or like just in us like Americans or humans like in general,
Yeah.
like it did something for us that it might have started like a few snowballs, but like where they end up, who knows? But I think it was like a fast track for like a lot of change that normally would have taken a long time. You know
Yeah.
how you do you know how like usually during like wartime is when like we're the most like technologically like innovative.
Yeah.
That's like a thing. Like during wars when you know you get all these like crazy inventions that like 20 years later you get like a fucking like electric can opener, you know, and that technology came from like 15 years ago in like some plane part or whatever, you know.
Right.
And I think the pandemic kind of had that effect on just like humans. It kind of fast tracked like I think a lot of things for people. Some of them good, some of them not good. Um,
It did
like
me
one
a
of
lot
them,
of good, man.
yeah. Like I think one of them was for a lot of people, it made them more like to realize like their self worth, especially when it comes to like workplace and how you expect to be treated at a workplace and how much you know expect to make for the amount of work that you do.
Right.
Um, and I think people's ability to you know stay home and kind of you know get by with the unemployment benefits kind of made them realize like you know I made less slaving away, you know, fucking busting my ass for you know over 40 hours a week working you know 2 3 jobs. Like I shouldn't be doing that, you know. Like nobody should be working, you know, 40 plus hours a week
Right.
and just getting by regardless of what you do. Like that's my opinion. Like I don't care what the job is. Like whatever the fuck it is, you be scrubbing toilets, you know, for 40, 50 hours a week. That should not just get you by. Like we're in a society where we're so like we're much more past that, you know. I understand it, you know, early on in the you know civilization or society or whatever. But I think at this point, with the amount of capital and resources that we have, and just where we are like as a country, I think we're so far past you know just getting by, you know, having a full time job.
I I read that the top well, no, I watched a podcast the other day. The top 2%, the 2% of Americans own more than 60% of the capital in this country. 2% own more than the middle class, the entire fucking middle class. So
Yeah, I
I,
was.
I get why people are angry, but the thing is, our anger's misdirected. We're seething in traffic, and somebody cuts us off, and all of a sudden, the woman, I saw a woman in a video, she got cut off, and she jumped out of her car and was kicking and beating the door of the driver that cut her off, and he got out, and she was calling him, the N word, and trying to slap him, and she got back in the car and rammed his car. And I thought, Jesus Christ, lady, you can, that's misdirected anger. If you are angry that you're not making enough money, to slam your car into another person's car is not solving the fucking problem. That's my issue here. It's like when my daughter gets mad at her hair and she throws the hair dryer, and breaks a $40 hair dryer. That just creates more problems. And that's what we're doing. Our anger is boiling over. We're losing our fucking shit and hurting each other, shooting each other, punching each other. And it's not solving anything. It's actually creating more problems. That's my issue here. Why can't we go, why can't we focus our anger on things that are um, justifiable? If you're
Yeah.
angry at your boss, go to your boss. Don't take it out on your dog.
Yeah. We just have like, we're not very good at like managing our emotions or like processing them, you know? So
Right.
we just like pent it up and bottle it all in until it, you know, it comes out in a fit of like road rage, you know, like you were
Yeah.
saying. Um, so I think that's a really good like reason why. Like I don't know if you've noticed, but I see it everywhere now. I think a lot of like industries have kind of highlighted like mental health and its importance.
Yeah.
Um, you know, whether it be like entertainment industry or like sports. I know. I don't know if you saw, but there was a football player that he just announced like that he was going to step away, from playing football to kind of focus on himself, whatever he may be going through. He
Right.
wants to focus on that before, you know, playing the game. And, if he said that, 10, 15 years ago, people would just like, rip him like at every chance they got, they call him soft or they'll call him, every name in the book. And I think that for the longest that's made people like not want to address these emotions and these feelings, out of fear of, you know, all the judgment and all the like negative
Yeah. Yeah, of
like
course.
stereotypes and all that comes with, mental health and mental health awareness. I think for the longest, like it's had such a negative stigma,
Right.
people automatically assume like, oh, I'm not crazy or like I'm fine. I'm not depressed or whatever it may be. Um,
Yeah,
and I
there's
think
this.
like I said, we're kind of turning that page, and it might have been fast tracked through this whole quarantine thing, like I was mentioning, because we spent like a year and a half locked indoors. Like that's gonna do something for a lot of people, like that's gonna fuck a lot of people up. Like
Yeah.
that'll fuck anybody up, that whole like isolation and just being by yourself. Um, we're a social animal,
Yeah.
so you're gonna see a lot
Which
of
is why when
people
you get put in prison, the way they punish you is to fucking isolate you, and that's
isolate.
vicious, man. That's. I'd rather just go ahead and beat me up and put me up in general population. I'll be fine, but don't lock me up in isolation for 5 fucking years. That's you know.
Right. So it's I think it's kind of like growing pains, Um, with anything, there's gonna be growing pains, and we're kind of seeing like a little turbulence on our way to like proper mental health care, proper uh, wealth distribution and like pay scales. But I think to get to those places, we need to kind of we've never really been there, so it's kind of we're kind of like muddling through to try to get there, and that's what we're saying right now, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. I I did really well during the pandemic. I mean, I lost weight. I concentrated on my mental health, concentrated on my physical health, my family. I read a lot. I listened to a lot of educational stuff. I took, fuck, I took 280 fucking online classes through when I was working for the county.
Yeah.
280. Yeah, I killed it when they finally let us out. Man, I was ready to go. I was like, I feel good. I feel healthy, and I think a lot of people, like, when you lock them up, the first thing they do is like, oh, I'm going to sleep and I'm going to eat and I'm going to watch TV and I'm not going to work on anything for my mental health. But I don't think we understand that we're destroying ourselves when we do shit like that. You just isolate yourself and watch TV and binge watch Netflix. It's not doing you any good. It's actually doing you a lot of harm. You're,
Even though it might feel good or
yeah,
like fine, you know?
exactly. Exactly. You're going to stay in mental health, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see myself leaving, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, you're getting a degree in psychology, aren't you?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've
Education.
always I've always been fascinated with like the way the human mind works and
Yeah.
what causes us to do what we do. I think psychology is a very good like avenue to figure a lot of those things out.
Yeah. That's why I'm in education. I, I think, I am fascinated with the human mind, but I like the fact of what I'm doing now is which I'm teaching little kids, and they're fun to work with because they're not damaged yet. A lot of them aren't
Right.
damaged yet. Some of them, some of them quite profoundly. Yeah. But I like the fact that
How old are they?
I'm, I
Is
have
there
them
like a
coming up
range
on
that you work with?
a range four to seven, more or less. I'm doing
Okay.
pre-K, kindergarten, and I'm going to start taking regular kindergarten classes instead of handicap. But it's I'm going to become a kindergarten teacher, and for all you out there who don't know me, I have long hair and tattoos, and I'm I'm a pretty formidable looking person, and I think it's funny how when moms are picking up their kids after school, they're like, "Oh, you're the teacher? Oh my God!" Like, so
There will be some fun teacher parent conferences.
absolutely, absolutely. But the kids really like me because I guess I'm much like them. I'm like a little kid, more or less. I just fuck around
Relatable.
with them all day. Yeah, relatable. I sing and dance and I just have a lot of fun teaching. And I think I'm going to take my guitar in when I finally get my own classroom, shit like that. But I think there's a way that, if we can educate our children in a more stable mental health environment, that we're going to slowly pass out of this. But at the point we're in now, this is a crisis, man. Everybody's fucking blown out. They're tired of their work, they're tired of their lives, they're tired of their boss, they're tired of their spouse, or just everybody's just unsettled at this point. And I think it's a little more than you called it growing pains. And I understand what you're talking about there, but this is like Osgood Schlotter's growing pains, This is, you know what I mean? Like, we are
Yeah.
fucked up. This is a crisis. We, y- how many, the air rage has grown like 400 fucking percent. People are Murders up, crime is up, everybody's pissed off, and then you got the fucking cops who won't take the vaccination. So police departments are being shut down and firemen are being shut down. So you've got a rising crisis on both sides, man. We don't have the authority anymore, and we've got a population that's not afraid of authority anymore. So That's a huge issue. It's a huge problem we have, man. Nobody's afraid of the fucking policeman anymore.
I mean,
Nobody.
I don't think anybody. I don't think we're supposed to be afraid of the police.
I
Um,
mean, I mean, fear like you fear your father, like you respect the man, but you have that respect comes from a little bit of fear because he has authority over you. That's the way I've always looked at parenting, and that's what my kids have always told me. I mean, why don't you act up? You can ask any of my kids why weren't you acting up like a lot of other kids? Like we were fucking afraid of you, afraid not only of like I never hit my kids, I never beat them or anything like that, but they were afraid of disappointing me. So
yeah, I
we
mean, I think
just
people, if there's any fear, I think it should be more towards like the consequences, not so much the police as like an entity. Like, oh,
right,
I don't want to go to jail. It's not like, oh, I don't want to get like shot by this cop.
right. Well, man,
So it kind of makes me wonder like what like is the not the role but like the way people see police. um it shouldn't I think it should change like as a whole, like in general, as opposed to the way it is right now, because I think when you think of police, everybody, I mean, for the most part, it's not like a good thought whenever you see them,
right.
whether they're like pulling you over or you see them dealing with somebody else. um for the most part, like whenever you see them like in public, it's not like, hey, off, like if I see a cop like walk into like a gas station, like I don't like think to like greet them or like say anything to them. It's like, oh, don't look at them, like just leave.
Well, what kind of guilt you have going on, man? Because I talk to him all the time.
I don't know, I think it's just my bias towards cops.
Okay. Okay. Shouldn't that change? I mean, I look at policemen. Of course, I grew up white, and that's a whole different ball game. I know we talk about that a lot, but I look at policemen as doing their job to protect the public. Now, they're not after me. I'm not fucking doing anything. If I'm speeding, that's a different issue. But I don't get hassled. I'm always like, "How you doing, man?" And I even thank them a lot. I'm like, I thank you for what you're doing because I think what they do sucks. I would it sucks to be a policeman. Ask any of them. They'll tell you this is not a fucking easy job because it's the amount. I think America has lost its respect for itself, more or less. Really has, because we
I
are at a
mean,
point that I don't know. I don't even know how to talk about it anymore.
I agree that that's the role of the police, to protect and serve, that whole thing.
Right.
But I think they've taken that and just completely like abused it. Um, because there's just so much like corruption when it comes to like police departments, as a whole. Like overall, not like the individual. I'm not saying like every single individual like cop is corrupt,
Right.
but I'm saying like the police system and police departments as a whole are corrupt. And you don't have to look far to see that. Um, and like you said, you personally, if you see a cop or whatever, you could just go up to them and like talk to them and greet them, and
Yeah.
they'll probably be nice to you back. But
Absolutely.
if somebody else that doesn't look like you does that, they're gonna be like, oh, what's up with this guy? Like, why is he talking to me? Is he like trying to hide something? Like, is he trying
Get on
to
the ground,
what?
motherfucker.
Right? So it's like, and yeah, like we can laugh about it, but we both know like that's a
Yes, I
thing
know.
that actually happened, and I think that's more frequent than the other way around. Um,
wouldn't you say that corruption is systemic though? I mean, because when you go straight up as high as you can get in government, it's corrupted. And then federal government's corrupt, state government's corrupt, county government's corrupt, city government is corrupted, and that just bleeds into everything that's connected to that system has some, it takes on the form of what's in charge of it and where the money is coming from and who's in charge of it. And so if the top guy's corrupt, the people that he's in charge of are going to say, well, he is. So what can I get out of it? And it just goes right on down to the very last guy, the policeman, the fireman, whoever. The whole system is fucked up. And, and I know that, we sound like conspiracy theorists a lot, but when you take a good look and you start peeling the layers off of our culture, it is so dangerously, I, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's just like chaotic. There doesn't seem to be any system of peace or prosperity anymore. It's just whoever can get what they can get. So you're dealing with a culture that's corrupted and greedy and self-serving, and so the policemen are in charge of protect and serve a population that has absolutely no respect for anybody else. They're just out to get what they can get. So how jaded are you going to be when you're a policeman who gets no respect, no thanks, you know, and all the system's built for them to protect us. So if they're going into this with this mindset of I'm going to protect, and then they're there for 4 or 5 years and they're dealing with the fucking homeless people and the criminals and the poverty stricken areas and murder and rape. After a while, dude, you've got to get jaded to that shit. I mean, think about what you and I did for for our job. After a while, you get jaded to what's happening. You have to, because if you continue to have emotional contact with that day after day after day, you're going to have a fucking problem. You're going to end up in therapy.
Yeah, but I think the difference between those two fields are that, um, we have like the ability and the awareness to know that, like you said, when we become jaded,
Yeah.
and we have the awareness, and sometimes we even have like the desire to like, hey, I don't want to feel like this. Let me try to fix it.
Right.
But I don't think that's really a thing when it comes to like law enforcement. Because like I said, it's like a big old like club, like, hey, what do you mean like you want to like see a therapist? Like, what do you mean like you don't want to feel like this? Like, you're a cop, it's like a really tight brotherhood with them.
Yeah.
So I think that's like their inability to like change and adapt. I think it's just very high in that like sector.
Yeah.
If
And
you
they will.
ask like police officers, like, would you support like mandatory like psychological evaluations, like maybe like on a like yearly basis or like every 5 years or whatever? I guarantee you the vast majority will say no. And why is that? Because they're afraid. They're afraid that they're gonna not be fit for the job. But the truth is, some of them aren't fit for the job, and they shouldn't be in that position of power. Because I mean, if you like, if you take your like stereotypical like cop, it was always like that bully in high school, or that guy that was always acting all tough. And it's like, I don't want people like that serving as police officers. People that use power to like achieve things.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they're public servants. They should serve the public, not serve their own like ego or their own like power struggle within them to like achieve more power and get more money or whatever it may be. Like if you're gonna be in the public sector, um, I don't think you should have that like mindset or mentality or attitude towards the job that you're doing.
Well, I can honestly say that I- I've met him, and if you read about him in the news, the Kevin McCarthy is the same fucking way, dude. He's a public servant who's in it for nobody but himself, and you can tell he doesn't give a fuck about Kern County. He doesn't give a fuck about his constituents, only to the point of what he says and does that will trick them into keeping him in office. That's all he wants.
Yeah, because I mean, what was the last time he had like even like a town hall here in Bakersfield?
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't know if he's afraid of it or, you know, I don't know. But you're right. Public servants should be public servants, but I think when you elevate someone to the the platform that these people are on, that it's human nature. And there you go. There's your psychology degree that you're so fucking interested in. Give people power, and what the fuck do they do with it?
Yeah, and I mean, it's possible for people to achieve, power and influence and not abuse it. We
I
see it.
I
We see
agree.
people doing it. People like Bernie or AOC, where they, I mean, at least for the most part, they seem pretty like devoted to their job and actually serving that the people actually serving the people that voted and elected them.
Right.
So I'm like I said, it's one of those things where we know it's possible. We see it happening. So I don't think we can use that excuse of like, oh well, it's just normal for it to happen. Once you, like you said, elevate to a certain um, pedestal of power,
Yeah.
it's normal for them to kind of like switch sides or turn. All of a sudden they're like super greedy and selfish.
It just
It's
seems not the norm, but don't let's not call it the norm, but let's just call it the typical. It's typical. It's what most of them do.
Yeah,
Once they
that's
once
true.
they get up there, they forget who put them there. They forget their friends. They start to see dollar bills out there. You know, when somebody comes by and says, "Hey, I'm going to take you to lunch at this $500 a plate dinner. I need to talk to you about a bridge I need built in Wyoming." That kind of shit. And all of a sudden, that that guy or girl or non-binary, whatever we're talking about here, all of a sudden they're not the person that got elected anymore. The the cop that came out of training, with the bright shiny badge, and I'm going to start helping people 5 years later, after dealing with the fucking bullshit for 5 years and realizing what the system is, it changes us. And you and I, you know what, you and I are no different. I can honestly say I would have great intentions if you gave me, uh, you know, governor or whatever. I would have great intentions, but man, to keep that in the wave after wave of corruption and money and power and sex and all the things that come with those, it just rips you apart as a human being. You can't stay that way. You can't. I mean, you can, but to do it is a monumental effort. We can't even have people lose weight, Lalo. They can't stay away from cake. How the fuck are you going to get them to stay away from millions of dollars?
I
We
mean,
have no
for a lot of
self-control.
those, that's true. But for a lot of these like issues, at least when it comes to like politicians or like public servants, mostly like politicians, I think there's pretty simple. Like the solution is pretty simple when it comes to kind of like make it not as appealing to people that are at like trying to become politicians for like the money and the power,
Yeah.
is to put like very strict like limitations on what you can and can't do as a politician.
And how long you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, term limits are pretty like pretty well supported. But I don't even think that's like most of the issue. I think most of it comes when like money. I think most of it is greed and money. So if you know you set a hard like like income limit on politicians, you give them like provisions that they can't do, like you can't have any like personal like investments, you know,
Mm.
like you at least you can't be like actively investing in like stocks, you know.
Yeah,
um
yeah. I saw something the other day, dude, that they have rules against investments where you have to report your investments, and if you don't report your investments, they fine you $200, and they've got these uh, they owe thousands of dollars where they're like, "Oops, I didn't do that." It's like there's laws in place, but they don't enforce it.
because they're the ones making the laws.
Exactly. Exactly. So here's you want to put limitations on these people. Who's going to enforce the limitations? That's the thing. They police themselves. They've always policed themselves, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things, like I said, that's we're like turning the page on, because I think we're getting more and more, even though it's like a very slow like growth, we're getting more and more politicians that I think like really do care and take their work and their profession like seriously for what it's meant to be. You know,
Yeah.
you're representing, you know, quote unquote, your people. So I think that's one of those things where it's gonna take a while, because you kind of have to like age out of the old guard, you know, and into like this new generation of like politicians that you know take their job seriously for what it is, and not just, you know, a platform to make money and gain power, because for the most part that's what it is right now. You know, being a senator or being a you know, a representative, it's mostly like a platform for people
Yeah.
to grab attention for themselves and to make money, and it shouldn't
Yeah.
be that way.
I thought I had this idea the other day that if I was in power like that, if you were mayor or city councilman or anything, fucking dog catcher, you could get your public involved. You could get your constituents involved easily, because we live in a world where everybody's fucking connected. So why not have a website with your name on it? You know, here's Senator Bob, you know, and here's the issues that we're going to vote on this week. How do you feel about them? And your constituents could plug right in and tell you, do not vote on that. And that, you know what, you're going to get reelected because you're going to vote with your people instead of like big pharma fucking owns that Kristen Cinema from Arizona. They fucking own her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave her $750,000 so she can oppose them. And now she's opposing these drug bills that are going to control big pharma. And how fucking stupid do we have to be to understand that she just got bought? She's owned by big pharma. So why not plug everybody into it, and you could go on McCartney's page and what are you voting on this week or this month? And here's what I'm voting on. How would you like me to vote? Because that's how this is supposed to work. He's supposed to vote the way I want, or at least the way the majority of people want. But instead, he's, like Cinema's up there. Well, she doesn't give a fuck how I feel about big pharma because they just handed her $750,000 and she's going to vote how they want.
Yeah, it's like Joe Manchin, how he was opposing
Oh my
the like
God.
billionaire tax,
Yeah.
and it's like, where's he from? Is he from West Virginia?
West Virginia, bro. I know him
It's
well.
it's like there's I saw this thing that was like there's zero billionaires in West Virginia.
Hmm.
So it kind of goes to show like uh where like his interest lies, you know.
Yeah, outside
Um,
of the state that supports him or he's supposed to support. And that's the issue, that these people are so far fucking removed, and so they're, most of them are in the pocket of some corporation or some movement or some group that needs power and needs money. But
Right.
how would if I was in Arizona and I could go online and how do you want me to vote against big pharma? I would tell Miss Cinema, fuck big pharma. They need to cut their uh, profit. They have made, god damn, dude, they have made more profit in the last 2 years, some of them, than they have in their existence because of the vaccine.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean,
the
like I said, the one of the ways I think we can at least slow that down or maybe even fix that is make these like public office um, positions like not undesirable, but like undesirable if you're trying to like make a shit ton of money, you know?
yeah,
Like if that's your goal, like that's not going to be possible being a senator, you know? Like you they could make enough to like live, you know, comfortably, you know, whatever that amount, you know, whatever you want to set that amount to, you know, we can decide that on later. You know, you can say
right.
like 100 grand. Like after
And
taxes, you make a clean 100 grand.
right. And
Um,
we're going to pay for you to get back and forth from your state to DC.
yeah. So it's like you can't take any like outside donor like parties or whatever the fuck, you know, golf trips. You can't accept any of that, or else you're like, you know, fired. Um, you can't, you know, take all the knowledge that you obtain being in, you know, public office and use that, you know, for investments and stuff like that. You know, once you become a public servant, you have to kind of like either put on hold on your investments or like, well, I wouldn't even say like give them to somebody else because you can still relay that information. So I would just say like freeze them, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then I feel like that would, you know, detract a lot of people that are in it for the power and the money, you know? Um, and it would like attract all the candidates that are purely in it for, you know, serving the public, which is what the job is. Like if someone enjoys like, you know, being that voice for, you know, constituents and the people that they serve, like those are the type of people that you're gonna get running for these positions.
Yeah, I'm that person. I would love to run for office, but the thing is, I can't because I don't have the cash. That's the thing. You have to have the fucking cash, or you have to get out and beat the pavement forever to get the cash, to get the recognition in order to even have your name. And like these people that run against that woman that ran against McCarthy, she just got crushed, you know,
I heard there was
because
somebody else that announced they were running against him.
I wish somebody would.
I think it was the former CEO of one of the homeless shelters here, I believe.
All right.
Um, and I mean, from what I've heard, they got like a good. I mean, I don't want to say good chance because it's Kern County, but like they've made waves, you know. Like
Yeah.
it's cause for like concern at least for McCarthy's like camp.
You mean somebody has to wake him up? Hey, man. Somebody has to
So
tap him on the shoulder at a golf game and say, dude, I think somebody's coming for you and they're kind of serious.
exactly. So it's one of those. We'll see. Like I'm not holding my breath on anything, but um,
So
we'll
many of our
see.
big problems that we talk about, dude, like what you're saying right there, that's an easy fix. But the problem is implementing it is not easy because the people that need to implement it are the ones who are in fucking the circus cheating the system. So
Yeah.
how do you get that in there? And like the school system's broken and there's real fucking easy fixes for all this stuff, but it has to do with, you got to break the cycle of power, and the people who are in charge of this don't want to look stupid, or they don't give a fuck because they're making lots and lots of money, and that problem that the school system's having is not, it's not an issue to them. They've always had that problem, so fuck it. But the thing is that all these problems that you and I talk about and all these easy fixes, when you add all this shit up, you've got a woman beating on the door and yelling racial slurs. You've got people punching people, and it's this growing unrest that we have. And how the fuck are we going to solve it unless there's some major upheaval? And I don't want that. I don't want that, man. I don't want some fucking civil war or some, revolution. I don't need that shit, man. I got a hot tub. I got I'm kind of comfortable here. Let's solve this peacefully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm well aware that um, like I mean it's been like done throughout history, but I'm well aware that sometimes for like significant change to happen, like it's gonna be ugly,
Yeah, I know.
um, depending on the issue at hand. Um, because I mean, for some of them, there's no. I mean, for some issues like in the past, like without it getting ugly, I don't think it would have gone changed in the first place.
Yeah, I
So
I agree. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as the system continues to tip out towards the rich and away from the poor, and we can't even pass legislation to help get free schooling because the rich are like, I'm not fucking paying for a poor person's education. So they have that attitude, and that portion of our nation has that attitude, and fucking a lot of poor people are on their side. Like, no, we ain't fucking paying. We don't need to pay for somebody's education. They pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. All that fucking bullshit that you and I have talked about before. And then the other side is like, yeah, but this is a logical choice if we're going to move forward in history as a positive nation and continue to hold our nationhood. We've got to figure out some way to get that capital back towards the poor, and the way to do that is to educate them. And meanwhile, high schools are turning out kids that are fucking illiterate because we don't want to fail them anymore, because legislation's been passed that you can't do that. So you have to keep moving these kids through. So it's turning into this big fucking machine of us versus them. And the us side is illiterate, angry. They don't know what to do. They're undereducated. They don't make good choices. They're addicted. There's all kinds of fucking problems. And on the other side, there's this anger towards this generation or class of people. So this thing, Lalo, this thing is so volatile and so hot right now. It's like, I feel like we're that nation that just got cut off, and half of us are getting ready to get out the car and kick somebody's ass. That's what I feel like. There's going to be a racist rant that's going to raise up and just fucking start kicking somebody's ass. And then, who knows? Who knows after that?
yeah, definitely. I think it's very like unknown or hard to predict, like what goes on from here. Like if it gets a lot worse or a lot better,
Hmm.
we're kind of like, is this as bad as it's gonna get, or is it like just beginning type of thing? And I could honestly see it going both ways at this point.
Yeah.
When it comes to like all the like instability and like you said, just like what seems to be like anger,
Hmm.
coming from like everything and like just divisiveness on pretty much like every single issue. Like there's not many like issues you could point to where there's like a consensus of like agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very even on things that like seem pretty clear cut. Um, but it's very like you said, it's very concerning um, to see like where we go from here. But I mean, I guess time will tell. It's kind of hard to. I mean, at least for me, like it's very hard to predict because, like I said, I could see it going both ways. Obviously, you hope for like a cool down,
Yeah,
or
peaceful
people to start like,
solution.
yeah. Um, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if it goes the other way. If it's
Well,
gonna get like really ugly and more, just volatile and just all around bad.
all around bad. But here's the thing. Here's the calculator. Check this out. What it was $10 an hour, right? How many hours? Let's do this real quick. It's $10 an hour times 40 equals times 52 weeks. Okay, at $10 an hour, we're making $20,800, right?
Hmm.
So everybody's pissed off about that, and and then so we want more money, and then that pisses the other side off. So and then it comes out you're going to make $15 an hour. Do do people not realize that that's only about $32,000 a year at $15 an hour, and it's still not enough? But it seems like they want to hand this here. We're going to give you 15. Everybody calm down. Why the fuck should I calm down when you are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, not paying taxes? You know, the 2% owns 60% of the capital, and you're going to give me $5,000 more, $10,000 more. And some that's supposed to, it's supposed to satiate me somehow. I'm supposed to go, okay, 15's enough. I'll settle down now. And that, I think that's what's happening is like these places are offering $15 an hour. And I think people are just doing the fucking math, Lalo.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they
And
know,
yeah, all of a
like
sudden they're realizing, what the fuck have you been doing to me here? And now the other side is like, they have this falsetto bullshit, like, well, we offered them 15. Well, that's not enough. That's not enough. Give them 20 and or cut the prices. Stop making a fucking new car cost as much as a fucking house. Stop doing this shit to us. And I think that's why there are a lot of the anger's coming through, but maybe this mass exodus from work and this refusal to go back to work, that might be like those 60s peaceful sit-ins. We're just not going to do it. Suffer. We really need
yeah,
your labor. Well, you really need to fucking pay me then.
yeah. And I think a lot more people are like I said, able to, because I mean, I think for the longest time they've known that whatever I make right now is not enough. But I think now they have the ability to like hold out, for as long as people have been doing. And I think that ability is what is going to ultimately drive like the higher wages and more of what they demand, what people demand. Because I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, like giving employees higher wages, and then people making the argument of like, oh well, then just like your Big Mac's going to be like $10.
Yeah.
Like even if that was the case, like let's say even if that was the case, that's not because they're getting paid more that it has to go up $10 to $10. That's it's going up to $10 because those people that are in charge at the top, they want to keep making the same amount of money that they're making now. And by paying their employees more, they're taking less of a profit. But because they want to keep making that same profit, if not more profit, they're gonna raise it up to $10. So it's not the employees driving up the cost. It's the employers driving up the cost because they wanna like appease, like, okay, here, we'll give you more money. We'll give you like $2 extra. But we also wanna keep making the same amount of money we make now, which is like fucking 300 times as much as you make.
Right. Right.
And it's like that inability for people to like, hey, like I'm a fucking millionaire. Like it's okay if I don't make $10 million this year. Like if I make $2 million, I'm okay with that. And people just can't, like, that doesn't click for them. Like it doesn't, like that's not an okay thing to happen. And it's
But
people, and it's like how, like why, I don't know. Like you said, it's sometimes it's hard to like put into words.
right. But the thing is, capitalism demands that you make more than you made last year. That's
Or
capitalism.
else,
That's the way it's built. And if I make 10 million this year and I pay my employees more and I make 2 million next year, I've lost money according to capitalism. And then that makes your shareholders go, well, you're not making as much. I'm not going to invest in you. And you fucking go out because you want to pay your people more. So the entire system has to change from paying your people more to telling your shareholders, you're not going to make as much money. And that's where it fails right there, because capitalism dictates if you made $1 million last year, you have to make $1,001 next year, or you're a failure. That's
yeah,
sad, but it's the truth.
it's just
So
like I don't know. Like I always say, it always comes down to like money and greed for the most part.
yeah,
Um,
always.
which I mean, in turn, could just it's just like money and power, you know. The greed for money and the greed for power. It just drives like pretty much like every facet of our society, you know.
It does, man. Unless you're a
And I know it's
rapper,
kind of
then
like
it's money, pussy, and weed. Then it's
and I know, um, and I know like for a lot of people, it sounds very like utopian, you know, to talk about it like in the way we talk about it.
yeah,
Like, oh, why can't people just, you know, take in less money, like a little bit less money for like the super rich people and just, you know, give it to the actual employees, which are bringing in the profit. Because I mean, every single business, or every single employee that works like anywhere, um, is like producing more than what they're getting paid, like 100% of them. Because if they didn't, there wouldn't be any profit. Like
right.
that extra that they make is the profit of the company, of the business.
Yeah,
So 100% of employees that are working, if that business is afloat, it's because they're producing more than what they're getting paid. Which I mean, I'm not saying like they should be paid uh, like exactly what they're making, you know. The amount of like production that they bring in should be equivalent to like the amount of money that they get paid. I mean, you could like argue for that, but even just like tipping the scales like even a little bit more towards the employees, you know,
right.
that's like all really people are asking. Like you don't need a fucking complete like 100% like I make, you know, I flip $40 an hour worth of burgers, I want $40 an hour. But you know, 20 25 might be good, you know, I can live with that, you know, enough to like pay my bills and not worry about, you know, paying rent or between you know, making my car payment or my rent payment.
Yeah,
And like that's all really people are asking for. And I, to be honest, I don't think it's all that much to ask for to get by, to freaking, you know, to live decent and comfortably in the richest country in the world. I don't think
I
that's a lot to ask for.
I think it's very reasonable for me to ask that the people around me make enough money that they don't want to steal from me. They don't want to break into my car. They're not driven to violence to feed their children. It's very, as a citizen of this country, and I'm not saying because I'm white or because I'm privileged or because I'm anything. I'm saying if you paid everyone enough money that they didn't have to worry about if they're going to eat or turn on their keep their electric on, this system would work a lot better. More people would want to work. More people would want jobs. More people would feel good about themselves. You know, because I remember when I was doing that, Lalo, when I was like, fuck, I got to pay this bill and I'll let this one ride until next month and then I'll pay that and I'll let that one ride. And I was, you're playing roulette with your fucking bills. And I did that for years. I was very unhappy. And I remember that I still remember the the job that I got that paid me enough to pay all my bills and stick a little money in the bank, how that made me feel. Proud of myself, you know? Like
Yeah, man, it seemed all like worth
it, yeah, it's
worthwhile.
worthwhile to go to work now because I can sit here and watch TV and not be thinking about how in the fuck am I going to feed my kid. And I know a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. And like you said, the richest country in the world, and we can't pay our people enough for working 40 hours a week, a third of their life, and they still can't even go out to dinner or can't go to a movie, or their car is fucking broken in the driveway and there's just no way to fix it, and they can't pay their insurance, and all of a sudden the baby's got a cough, and how the fuck are we going to come up with that money? We shouldn't be worrying about shit like that. That's third world shit. And I'm not putting other countries down. I'm just saying we are the richest country in the world, and our people are suffering more than some people who live in the fucking Sudan. And that's not right.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot
Especially
of
when the
people, yeah, a lot of people argue like their argument against that would be just like, oh well, how do we determine how much that is? You know, like how do we determine what living comfortable is for for your average person? Because I mean,
yeah,
living
I'm going to
comfortably,
call that.
it's different for different people. You know, if you ask
I'm
them,
still going to
but
call
at the
that a
same,
cop out. That's a cop
yeah,
out. That's a
and
bullshit
exactly
statement.
that's what I'm saying. Like that's not an argument to just not do anything.
Right.
Like whatever that amount may be, it's not what it's at right now. That's for a damn fact, you know?
That's for
So it's
damn
like
sure.
so like what's let's let's instead of saying, oh well we don't know what that would take, so let's just not do anything. Instead of saying that, let's work on it and let's start somewhere. And if it's, too little or too much, we can adjust for that. But just not doing anything or saying like, oh well, they got to work harder, blah blah blah. That's not a solution to anybody's problems.
It's a
I don't care.
solution to their problem. They're still going to be fucking comfortable. That's the
Yeah,
thing. They
and I
need to
think
work harder.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my God.
a lot of that's like fear from people that think that they're just like something's gonna be taken away from them to like give to somebody else.
Yeah,
I
those
think
people
that
might
that's
move in
that's
next to me.
that's
That's
what
what.
drives a lot of fear for a lot of people. Like, hey, like what, you know, am I gonna pay more taxes or whatever?
Yeah, and you
Um,
should pay more taxes, especially when you're making millions of dollars. You should pay more taxes.
yeah, I mean, let alone like that billionaire tax, it was gonna impact like 81 people in a
Exactly.
country of like 350 million. And I
Yeah.
saw this video of some guy arguing like even if we taxed all the billionaires at 100% and took all their money, it would only run the country for like 8 months. And he was like trying to like this gotcha moment, like
Right.
that's not even that much money like in the grand scheme of things. Like government spending is a real issue, blah blah. And it's like the way I saw it was like we live in a country and a system where 81 people could run a country of 350 million for 8 months, and you don't see an issue with that. Like, oh,
No,
only for 8 months. Like, bro, you're 81 people, less than 100 people could run an entire fucking country for
for
eight
eight
months.
months.
Like, that doesn't seem fucking crazy to you.
Well, the
And
thing
it's
is,
not some
too,
like tiny ass country. It's like 350 million people.
and it's mismanaged.
So it's like, I mean, that's the way I saw that video. I was like, what the fuck? That's even
That's
more of a
funny.
reason to do it.
That's like taking them all. Fuck them. Take them all. Their penis rockets and all. Take it all. All right, Lalo. We're over an hour. I got shit to do, man. I gotta fucking go study. But here's my thought for today to end this. I'm gonna tell you guys exactly what I told my kid this morning. Take a few minutes, sit down, do a self search, and ask yourself, why am I really angry? Does it have to do with my job? Does it have to do with my spouse? Does it have to do with everybody in the world that I'm attacking and I'm miserable? Go sift through and find out why you're fucking angry and talk to somebody about it. But for God's sake, stop shooting each other and beating up on each other in traffic, man. We got to stop this. We got to stop punching flight attendants, because I don't think, I don't think that dude was like, his whole problem was a flight attendant. That's not that's not the issue. That's who he took it out on. So we need to stop. We need to stop, self-reflect, find out why we're angry, and redirect our anger and get McCarthy and get all these fucking people out of office. Start voting, start doing the right thing, and start. I know we're a big country and we're going to turn it around slow. You can't just, turn the whole thing around. But man, if we focused and find out what the fucking problem is and start voting these people out, we could turn this around in 10 years. And I know that's saying, that seems like a long time, but not really. Just think about it.
Good food for thought.
Good food for thought. And now I'm going to go get some food for my stomach.
I'm probably going to do the same, to be honest.
Right on, man. So it's been a good session, man. I appreciate you, dude. This has been here. Bob.
And Lalo.
God damn, you are so good at that now, dude. And this has been
I practice it every day.
You liar. He's like 3, 2, 1, and Lalo. Okay, you got it. All right, man. I'll see you next week.
Later, man.
All right, this has been the Thoroughly Wrong Project, and go fucking be nice to somebody. Later, dude.
Later.
You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.